Dubai International Airport, Terminal 3, late evening on a humid Monday. The airline PNR shows a seat in economy plus and a landing ahead of schedule by a small margin. At the Marina Hotel, the keycard audit records one entry at just past 9. The lobby CCTV timeline, time-stamped to network clocks, shows no arrival in that minute or the next. If the logs say she returned, why was a week later only a sealed biohazard pouch with 3 teeth recovered from a private clinic's medical waste run? For more cases like this, please follow the channel. She was called Marta Kovalenko. She was in her late 20s. She worked days as a dental hygienist in Warsaw and took small modeling bookings on weekends. She sent part of every payout to her mother in Kharkiv. She had one clear competence: order. Her life sat in folders and lists. Her bank app was labeled, her documents scanned to cloud. Her travel packing was clockwork. She also carried one soft spot. She worried about time running out. She wanted to move her mother out, finish her degree, and feel safe enough to plan a future. That made the next offer feel like a door finally opening. The offer wore the mask of charity and glamour. It arrived through a boutique agency that stated a partnership with a Gulf Cultural Foundation. The agency's site showed press clippings about scholarships for young artists and images from gallery nights. A driver's name, a concierge number, and a foundation email footer gave it the scent of a legitimate institution. The man at the center remained abstract, a sheikh with a taste for the arts and patronage. His title did the work that names usually do. His house manager handled the rest. The first touchpoint was a calendar invite for a remote portfolio review. A second invite followed for an in-person shoot tied to a foundation dinner. The itinerary file attached to the invite listed Warsaw to Dubai, an airport meet with a driver holding a placard, and a booking at a marina hotel. The agency advanced the fare. The ticket appeared inside her airline PNR. A sponsor letter signed on foundation letterhead stated that costs were covered as part of cultural outreach. The pressure in Marta's life turned the pitch plausible. Her mother's rent had risen again. The clinic had cut hours. Marta's savings, marked by careful entries, dropped closer to a line she had sworn not to cross. The foundation's email promised a stipend for a 2-week stay that would refill that line, cover rent, and leave something extra. The message also explained a dress fitting and a wellness screening as standard practice before gala seating. The language was neutral and administrative. It was easy to accept. A mask likes a script. The foundation agent sent a short contract through a secure link with branding. It required a non-disclosure, a social media blackout for the duration of the trip, and consent for routine images to be captured by house photographers at private events. There was a clause about health protocols at private residences. The contract cited hospitality standards. Marta read it twice, flagged nothing, and e-signed it. The return email carried a polite note and a PDF with a booking code. Small systems began to spin. The airline app updated with the ticket. Her bank showed a small test transfer from a payment processor linked to the agency. The GDRFA pre-approval arrived in her inbox. The Marina Hotel reservation showed up in her name in a booking portal. The house manager sent a welcome packet with a concierge number and a reminder about airport pickup. Everything lined up like well-placed tiles. In Warsaw, Marta packed with her usual order: travel adapter at the bottom of the carry-on, passport sleeve, copies of documents in a zip pouch. She sent her mother a simple note with dates. She printed the sponsor letter despite having it on her phone. She set calendar alarms: boarding time, arrival, meeting, fitting. The nested alarms calmed her. She believed she had kept control. At the gate, she took a seat near a power outlet and checked the itinerary again. The flight boarded. The cabin lights dimmed. Somewhere high above Anatolia, she opened the sponsor letter again and studied the foundation logo. It calmed her in a new way now. Not only order, but status. This was a patron's world. She was only passing through. At baggage claim in Dubai, a man in a black suit held the placard with her name. The driver greeted her the way drivers in this city greet everyone in public: neutral, quick, efficient. He led her to a dark sedan. The drive along Sheikh Zayed Road felt like entering a model of a city rather than the city itself. Glass, steel, gridded light. The Marina hotel lobby smelled like citrus and stone. The front desk handed her a key card in a paper sleeve. The house manager texted a welcome and a reminder. Dress fitting the next day, wellness screening later in the week, dinner at the end. That night, the Marina view held small triangles of light on water. She took a photo of the skyline for herself and did not post it because the contract said not to. She set the keycard sleeve on the desk. On the back, she wrote the concierge number and the house manager's name. She selected a dress from the garment bag and set it out. She ironed a blouse. She set an early alarm, then a second one, and placed her passport pouch at the bottom of her travel tote. She believed she had kept control. Before she slept, she opened her bank app and saw the deposit confirmation for a small per diem. It reassured her. It also bound her. In the morning, she would begin the 2-week script laid out in the itinerary. She sent a short message to her mother that all was well, closed the curtains, and set her phone to charge. The binding commitment had been made, travel booked, contract signed, handoff scheduled. The door had closed behind her with barely a sound. The first days followed the plan on paper. A driver collected her for the dress fitting in a private salon near City Walk. The house manager's assistant handled measurement notes and garment bags as if she were being fitted for a runway, not a dinner table. A phone was offered for secure communications while in the city, labeled as a courtesy device. She accepted it because the assistant said it would simplify transport and entry. The assistant typed her name into the new phone. Her own phone stayed in her bag. She told herself this was normal hospitality. Quiet red flags appeared like tiny stains that could be dismissed. The assistant said passports were held by the hotel for security, which in many cases is untrue, but it sounded like order here. The hotel took a scan and returned the passport. Then the house driver suggested keeping it in the safe at the residence during private events to prevent loss. That sounded like care. A wellness screening invite came from a private clinic in Jumeirah with a polished website. The screening was framed as routine before closed-door dinners. Many luxury spaces used similar language during health scares. The phrase slid by. A calendar invite arrived for a rehearsal walkthrough at a residence on the Palm. The access instructions included a visitor sticker with a serial to be collected at a gatehouse. The serial would identify her on camera across internal hallways. The security language read like a hotel conference packet. Her name was spelled correctly. The time was tight but manageable. Money and time sunk deeper into the trip. The agency's stipend hit her account in small tranches, each labeled against a ledger code. A small gratuity envelope at the salon contained dirhams. The hotel upgraded her room quietly. The foundation's dinner program attachment listed a seating chart with initials, not names, but it still felt like a program. When she walked through the residence before the rehearsal, a staff member pointed to staircases and entry zones the way hotels orient conference speakers. Her visitor sticker beeped at one portal and not at another. The house manager used phrases that turned rooms into categories: public, semi-public, staff only, family. It was soothing in its control. It also implied lines that, once stepped across, would be difficult to step back from. The wellness screening came 2 days later. The clinic was white and quiet, its logo stamped into glass. The intake tablet captured her passport image, signature, and a digital consent for standard labs. The nurse asked simple questions and entered the answers into a system whose name she did not catch. A sample was taken. She left with a bottle of water and a brochure about the foundation's health partnerships that featured the same logo as the letterhead. On the house device, a new chat thread appeared labeled with the dinner date. The house manager's assistant sent run of show notes. The attire line item matched her fitting. An addendum arrived about photography boundaries inside the residence. She scrolled, absorbed the rules, and tapped a small acknowledgement dot without thinking about what that gesture meant inside a closed system. More quiet flags passed. The driver waited for her every time she stepped out. Ride-hail receipts existed only when she paid for personal errands. Otherwise, the ledger of her movement sat in a private logistics system she could not see. The concierge at the hotel knew her name without asking for a room number. That flattered her and also meant someone had coordinated in advance. Her personal phone began to feel like a foreign object she used less each day. the non-reversible step arrived without fanfare. The house manager's assistant asked her to sign a receipt when she picked up an amended contract addendum from the concierge. The addendum tightened the social blackout and extended the definition of private photography. She signed in the space provided and handed the receipt to the concierge. The paper left her hand. The addendum entered a file she would never handle again. That afternoon, she visited the clinic for what the assistant called a quick follow-up to correct a lab label. The staff scanned her visitor sticker from the residence and linked it to the clinic file. A small camera above the doorway captured the time to network time. The assistant waited in the lobby reading messages. Marta looked at the framed certificates and practiced her posture in the glass. Afterward, she walked a block in the heat and bought a juice. She paid by card. Her bank app pushed a notification that placed a dot on a map near Jumeirah. The dot was comforting. It was a system she knew. She watched it and then dismissed it. She returned to the hotel in late afternoon. She set the keycard sleeve on the desk again. She checked the run of show notes. She ironed the dress lining. She placed her passport pouch at the bottom of her tote again. The house device pinged with one final update. Call time advanced by a small interval. The message tone sounded like all the others. She set an alarm and approved the change. The border exit was still 2 weeks away on the itinerary. Her calendar showed the return flight in her airline app. That future date sat there like a promise built on rails. She had no reason to doubt it. The non-reversible had already occurred. Consent signaled, systems linked, passport scanned, internal logistics engaged. She could still step outside into the marina air and call a cab. She did not. The clock moved. The day of the dinner drew near. The night of the dinner does not break with a shout. It breaks with a ledger. At the Marina Hotel, the keycard system logs a room entry at a little past 9. The audit line includes the last 4 characters of the card ID and a time aligned to the property's network. The card's physical location, however, is not certain. The lobby's CCTV grid, which syncs to the same network clocks, shows no image of Marta entering the elevators around that time. The elevator car camera shows no figure matching her profile on the ride up. The contradiction becomes a question of which system tells the truth, the keycard ledger or the lens. There is another ledger that night, the clinic's intake server. A lab courier logs a sealed biohazard pouch for disposal with a timestamp just past midnight. The clinic's waste manifest lists the pouch weight and a routine route code. The disposal vendor's vehicle GPS shows a small pause in a service lane behind the clinic. A municipal sanitation inspector auditing routes later notes an anomaly in the form of a second pouch number written over the first on a paper manifest. The detail sits in a notebook until the inspector, out of habit, photographs it with a personal phone. The biohazard pouch does not reach the incinerator. A partial spill during a bin transfer reveals fragments. Under fluorescent light, a dental crown and 3 human teeth are visible. The clinic staff reports the incident to satisfy a reporting rule. The chain of custody begins with a correction form. In the morning, a CID officer picks up the pouch, logs it, and sends it to the lab. The lab returns a note of interest. The crown work matches the pattern and material Marta's Polish clinic logged in her dental chart months earlier. The match is not proof on its own. It is a flag. Meanwhile, the airline PNR for the return flight remains active and untouched. The GDRFA system shows no border exit for her passport. The hotel booking is not checked out. The house device is silent. Her personal phone stops moving on network pings after the dinner call time. The driver's logistics system shows a route that deviates from the residence to a private service entrance at the clinic, then returns to the residence, and then to the marina. The route timestamps line up with the clinic intake and the keycard entry audit that no camera supports. The car's internal camera, if it exists, sits inside a private fleet network beyond reach. The mask of charity begins to slip in small ways inside the data. A staff scheduling spreadsheet at the residence shows a visiting consultant in anatomy listed under the events team, with a badge issued for a short window that night. The badge serial matches the series used for temporary contractors. The badge is returned before dawn. The visitor list for the dinner does not include the consultant's name. In Marta's cloud backup, investigators later recover saved notes from her dental studies. Inside those notes sits a small folder of images from medical exhibits that house museums around the world display to the public. They are labeled with dates and museum names, like any student reference images. In the house manager's device, seized later, sits a search history that pairs the foundation name with queries about private medical collections. No one admits to owning those searches. The overlap is circumstantial, but it stains the mask. Leverage appears in the simplest form: control over documents and time. Marta's passport scan had been used to open clinic files and residence passes. The original passport was last pictured by a hotel scanner and then placed in her tote. The tote is not found in her room. The hotel's safe shows no entry in the audit log for that night. The residence access server lists her visitor sticker serial as present during the dinner call time and then not present ever again. Family safety and immigration status act as invisible hands in the background. The Foundation's letter that vouched for her entry could, in theory, be used to extend or complicate her status. A person without the sponsor's cooperation in this city feels a constriction around options. To leave requires documents. To seek help requires language and local trust. Those are controlled by the host. By dawn, the contradictions stack. The keycard says she returned. The camera says she did not. The clinic says routine waste. The pouch contains human teeth that match a crown in her chart. The driver's route shows a swing past a clinic that night. Her airline PNR waits in a system that operates on rails even when the passenger is gone. The house device remains silent in a way that is too clean. Clean silence is a kind of noise. The constraint locks in. The sponsor's office sends a polite note to the agency the next day that Marta has decided to extend her stay for personal reasons and requests privacy. The note uses gentle words and neutral verbs. The agency forwards it to her mother, who reads it twice and does not recognize the voice. Her mother writes back through the agency. No reply arrives. In internal systems, the residence marks her visitor sticker as closed. The hotel room is kept on hold for an extra night, billed to the Foundation, then quietly released. The ledger closes itself around an absence. What remains in the open is a plastic sleeve with a hotel keycard, a driver's detour, a clinic's manifest with a correction, a pouch that should have been ash, and 3 teeth that do not speak but still testify. The world has failed a promise that the itinerary had made. The systems that were supposed to ensure safety disagree with one another. The mask has shifted. The mechanism begins to show. The mechanism revealed itself as a set of quiet controls. Space was controlled by badges, gates, and rooms labeled with soft words. Time was controlled by moving call times forward by small amounts and asking for brief follow-ups that shifted the clock. Money was controlled by stipends that arrived in small ledgers and covered just enough. Law was controlled by sponsor letters and polite notes that spoke in the language of hospitality rather than criminal risk. Data was controlled by devices on a private network and forms that traveled through portals locked behind branding. At the hotel, the security manager printed the keycard audit and laid it beside the camera grid. The audit said one thing. The grid said another. He sent both to a liaison in the city's criminal investigation department. The liaison had seen this type of disagreement before and knew that systems could be tuned to tell a preferred story. He asked the hotel to seal the room, preserve the server snapshot, and copy the relevant minutes of camera footage to a write-once drive. The hotel complied because it was procedure, not because anyone had decided what had happened. At the clinic, a sanitation inspector's habit of photographing oddities met a chain of custody that did not expect to be watched. The photograph of the overwritten pouch number moved from a personal phone to a formal report only after a supervisor agreed that it mattered. That movement created a second artifact: the upload time. The pouch fragments, sent to the lab, produced a dental match flag that would mean little without a foreign medical chart. The chart existed because Marta kept scans. Her cloud backup required a warrant. The warrant required coordination with a consulate. Coordination required patience. Each step cost days. In Warsaw, a dental colleague printed the crown order, the lot number, and the post-op note from the clinic where Marta worked. The colleague was careful, slow, and stubborn about paperwork. That stubbornness turned a medical detail into a forensic anchor. The colleague called Marta's mother and a lawyer and the Polish consular desk. The consular officer opened a file and began to request assistance from local authorities. The first reply from the sponsor's office arrived before the first formal response from the host jurisdiction. It said Marta was well and requested privacy. That letter, polite and tidy, became the mask's last strong surface. Jurisdiction friction arrived as it always does in this city. Private residences enjoy layers of protection that discourage outside inquiry. Private clinics operate under health privacy shields that can be used to slow requests while appearing to honor best practice. A foundation with standing can route messages through towers of formality that keep investigators waiting just long enough for systems to rotate logs, rotate staff, and rotate stories. A consulate can ask. A host can nod and delay. Delay can be enough. The house manager's network ran on credentials and favors. Drivers belonged to a private fleet. Security logged to a private server. The guest list lived in a spreadsheet that looked like conference planning. The visitor stickers came from a printer that logged serials but not names. The clinic's wellness screening pipeline linked to house events through a shared vendor account that hid behind a corporate shell. On paper, no one answered to anyone else. In practice, the same three numbers called the same three assistants, and a car always appeared on time. Marta's voice was gone from the story, but her order remained. She had saved PDFs of every booking and copied small ledger entries into a personal finance app. Those files, recovered from cloud, drew a map with dates and sums and vendor names. The map let people who loved her and people whose job it was to follow maps move from guesswork to lines. A Polish consular officer flew in and sat with the CID liaison and a prosecutor. Together they traded careful language and the kind of pledges that mark the boundaries of what can be done. The prosecutor asked for the fleet's route logs for the dinner night and the clinic's waste manifest for that week. The House Counsel replied with a version of cooperation that offered summaries rather than raw data. Summaries are stories. Raw logs are facts. The difference mattered. In Warsaw, a small group formed around Marta's mother, the dental colleague, the lawyer, and an acquaintance skilled at open-source sleuthing. The acquaintance, a patient collector of scraps, began to gather public pieces, job ads that the boutique agency had posted, archives of the foundation's event pages, online photos of the residents from lifestyle magazines, and a list of clinics that shared the same vendor for logistics and lab handling. The acquaintance traced a corporate chain from the boutique agency to a management company, to a holding group that registered mail at a private office in a tower with a hotel below it. The names changed, but the phone numbers repeated. The flip from target to operator happened without drama. Marta was gone, so others picked up her habit of recording. The hotel saved audit images. The inspector saved the pouch photo. The colleague saved the Crown documents and couriered copies. The consular officer made a list of questions and asked them every day in the same order, on paper with file numbers on top. The CID liaison requested server images rather than summaries and pressed for access to a specific device, the house manager's assistant's phone. The house manager moved with the ease of someone who has done this before. Polite replies, invitations to discuss, offers to host. Each gesture employed status and place to shape expectations. Each gesture also opened tiny doors that could be used with care by people trained to gather evidence in rooms designed to disguise it. The plan formed in the slow language of interagency memos. Cybercrime would handle the device images if and when they were obtained. The border police would watch for the badge consultant and the driver whose route deviated on the dinner night. The financial intelligence unit would look at payments to the boutique agency and the vendor accounts for clinic logistics. The prosecutor would decide which requests could be made without a full file. The consulate would support with certified foreign documents that turned a Crown match into something a court could understand. The choice point arrived in an office with a window looking over a highway. The CID liaison slid a form across a desk. The consular officer signed to attest that a foreign citizen was missing under suspicious circumstances. The form opened the way to a voluntary device surrender request to the house manager's office. It was not a raid. It was paper and courtesy. It had to be. In this jurisdiction, paper and courtesy sometimes do more than force. A time-stamped request left the CID server. It asked for the assistant's device for a short forensic capture in place. The The House Counsel replied with a time that afternoon when the assistant would be present in a neutral conference room. A digital forensics team prepared a small kit and a single page of consent text. The page had one line that mattered, a phrase about capturing only work-related data. That was the mask that made the request acceptable. It was also the lever. A clock began to tick in the minds of everyone who knew that a device can change its contents in a heartbeat. By midday, a conference room stood ready. The forensics kit glowed its quiet status lights. The consular officer sat in the hallway reading a list of questions again. The CID liaison stood by the elevator and watched floor numbers blink. The plan had a checkpoint now. The first recording would happen if the assistant walked through the door. If not, the network would adjust and try another angle. Either way, the story would move. The assistant arrived on time with a company handset and a composed face. The consent line was read aloud in the restrained tone of someone doing a routine task. The device capture began. The forensics kit mirrored the device storage, recorded the installed messaging apps, and copied the work chat threads that used the house network. A thread named for the dinner night appeared. The forensic clock stamped a start time and an end time on the copy. The device left the table and returned to a bag. The moment lasted less than the span of a coffee break. It was enough. The first artifact in the evidence chain sat inside that thread, a logistics note where the assistant confirmed a visitor sticker serial assigned to Marta against a list of badge ranges cleared for the residents that night. The note included a time that matched the resident's access server's record for the sticker's last ping. A second artifact paired with it on the same screen, a driver dispatch line that acknowledged a detour to the clinic's service entrance for a short window, likely under the pretext of a wellness follow-up. The dispatch line carried a location code the fleet claimed was for a different errand. The chat's plain language and the fleet's after-the-fact label did not match. The third artifact came from the clinic's waste manifest system. A cybercrime analyst, working from a legal request that specified a small window of hours and a small set of pouches, pulled a changelog for the manifest where the overwritten number had been recorded. The log showed a user account making an edit shortly after midnight. The user account belonged to a contractor whose badge had been printed for the dinner night under the residence events team. That link from clinic log to badge roster pulled a thread through two buildings that preferred to appear unrelated. The prosecutor's office assembled these pieces into a simple ladder. Sticker serial to access server time, driver dispatch to routing detour, clinic manifest edit to contractor badge. Each rung held a timestamp that could be read on its own and also seen standing beside the others. Where the mask used gentle words, the ladder used minutes and places. The ladder did not explain intention. It only drew a path. The units fell into their roles. Cybercrime validated the device capture and preserved hash values. Criminal investigation sent quiet calls to the fleet manager. The financial intelligence team requested the payment processor's logs for the boutique agency's stipend disbursements. The border police placed the contractor on a list at airport terminals. The consulate briefed a liaison in a way that was both firm and polite. Each step had a number on a form. Each form had a signature. The sting required a human face. The boutique agency still posted offers. Another model, older and very experienced, agreed to cooperate. She would apply for a foundation dinner invite through the same pipeline. She would present a passport the consulate could support and carry a device that recorded system touches. When her PNR appeared, when her hotel booking updated, when a wellness screening invite arrived. Her role was to carry the mask as if it were her own and let the network do what it always did. Around her, teams would watch. If the private clinic called with a screening slot that aligned too neatly with an event, if the fleet dispatched a car to a service entrance through the same lane, if a house device wrote the same thread names, then the pieces from Marta's ladder would light up again in real time. To reduce risk, the plan used layers. The cooperating model would never be alone inside a closed space. A consular driver would tail the fleet car at a legal distance. The hotel would use a test card assigned to the model's booking that pushed a silent alert if a keycard audit line appeared without a matching camera frame. The clinic would be ready for a lawful inspection during the exact hour the vendor's truck normally arrived. The sanitation inspector, now part of the plan, would stand near the bin transfer lane with a clipboard and a camera he did not need permission to hold. The house manager's office was notified through the agency of the model's arrival. The reply matched the old pattern: welcome, stipends, device courtesy, wellness screening recommended, residence tour scheduled. The model accepted each piece with the calm of someone who had walked this maze many times. Her acceptance made the sting believable. The point was not to catch words, it was to record systems. On the chosen evening, the model checked into a marina hotel under a booking code the consulate knew. The keycard audit watched. In the lobby, a liaison sat with a book and a view of the elevators. Outside, a fleet car idled. When the house device pinged with the run of show notes, the cybercrime team read the thread names scroll on their mirrored capture with a half-second delay. Familiar labels appeared. The same assistant typed the same phrases. The residence access server assigned a new visitor sticker serial from the same range. The driver dispatch screen acknowledged a clinic stop added to the route for a brief interval under the same wellness pretext. The clinic's gate admitted the car at a time that matched the old detour nearly minute for minute. The sanitation inspector signed into the back lane at the same time. The vendor truck arrived. The inspector watched. The model stayed in the car, under watch from the consular driver and a CID unmarked vehicle down the block. Inside the clinic, a contractor badge pinged a staff door. Cybercrime, watching a live feed from the clinic's log server granted under warrant, saw the same user account open the waste manifest screen that had been edited months earlier. In the residence, the house cameras continued their background hum. The assistant's device wrote to the dinner thread about a delay and a quick check at the clinic. The words were gentle. The timestamps were not. The plan had an extraction path. If the fleet car turned toward the residence from the clinic, the model would step out at a public curbside where the consular driver would be waiting. If the house demanded a passport for safekeeping on arrival, the model would present a certified copy that looked real enough for ceremony and hollow enough for harm. If a device was offered for courtesy, the model would accept and leave her own phone in the consular car with a mirrored capture still running. A code word sat between the model and the liaison. It was simple and ordinary, the kind of word one could place in any sentence. If spoken near a microphone, it would turn a silent escort into an active one and pull the model out. She memorized the word even though no one wanted it used. The operation initiated at dusk. The clock ran in the minds of the people watching and in the fields of systems that do not think but still record. The house reached out its familiar hand. The network answered with quiet eyes and patient paper. The sting did not need drama to work. It only needed the machine to behave the way it had behaved before, under the mask of care. The sting did not break the network at once. It bent it. That was enough to answer the question and to leave scars that mattered. The clinic door pinged to the same contractor badge that had edited the waste manifest months before. The vendor truck idled in the same lane. The fleet car signed in with the same route code. The house assistant typed the same thread names and moved time forward by the same small margin. Systems repeated their habits. That repetition became evidence. Criminal investigation walked in on the clinic's back corridor with a health authority inspector and a quiet warrant. The contractor held a clipboard and stood very still. A workstation showed the manifest screen open to a pending entry. The cursor sat over the field where pouch numbers live. A forensics tech imaged the machine in place. The capture recorded a short history of edits, all tied to the same login and the same after-dark window spread across a handful of event nights. Nothing on the screen said why. It said how. It said who had access. That was what law could touch. On the road outside, the consular driver eased the cooperating model away on the prearranged word. The fleet car took a call and rerouted to the residence as if nothing had shifted. The model returned to the hotel and then to the consulate. A small pile of artifacts followed: a keycard audit print, a camera grid, a device mirror of the house thread that mentioned a clinic delay by name, a route log, a gate ping, a manifest change log. The pile looked dry. It was also heavy. Border police stopped the contractor 2 days later at departures. The badge and the login tied to the manifest edits gave the legal ground. Cybercrime validated the workstation image and the device capture from the assistant. financial intelligence froze a set of stipends and vendor payments that moved through the boutique agency's processor. The processor cooperated because it had to. Money has compliance rules that sit above masks. The fleet manager surrendered the route archives for the nights in question after a late call from the prosecutor. The archives showed the same clinic detour pattern lined up with private events and visitor sticker ranges. The pattern did not say intent. It did say design. The house manager's office issued a statement written in careful language. It described a health protocol, a misunderstanding, and a review. It named compliance and privacy in equal measure. It did not name Marta. That absence read louder than anything else on the page. In Warsaw, the lab report that matched the dental crown to the fragments in the biohazard pouch became a formal exhibit. The crown vendor's lot record, the clinic's post-op note, and the courier slip formed a clean chain. A Polish prosecutor certified the pack and sent it through the consulate to the host jurisdiction. Those pages turned a personal fear into a state interest. They also did the one thing family could not do alone. They made silence untenable. Arrests came, but not the ones that make headlines. The contractor sat in a small room and learned that access can be as binding as action. A clinic operations manager accepted suspension when the regulator opened an inquiry into waste handling, badge issuance, and manifest control. A vendor supervisor lost a license for failing to report overwritten pouch numbers in real time. The boutique agency's local office closed within a week under the pretext of restructuring. The holding company above it kept its sign on a door in a tower. The door stayed closed. The house assistant surrendered the work device again under a new request that cited the mirror already taken. This time, the copy yielded something that had not been visible in the first pass: a cache of badge printer logs for visitors labeled as consultants, routed through an events folder and kept off the formal access server. The cache pinned nights, rooms, and badge ranges to the same narrow set of vendors. That alignment gave the prosecutor the spine for a case that sounded bureaucratic on paper and predatory in life. The central question had been simple and cold from the start. If the log said she returned to the hotel, why did the clinic's bin hold her teeth? The answer was now plain. She did not return. A staff key or a cloned card wrote a ghost entry into the hotel ledger to close a loop that cameras did not show. A private fleet moved her on a pretext to a clinic that hid behind health language. The clinic's waste system, managed by a contractor with badge access and a login that no one audited, recorded, and then rewrote pouch numbers to sever links. The network eased every step with soft words: wellness, protocol, courtesy, privacy. The mask spoke care. The machine did control. Her remains were not recovered. That fact sat like a stone in every file and at the center of every quiet room where her name was spoken. The lab did what the lab could: confirm the crown and the enamel. The court did what the court could: accept the chain and the pattern and issue orders against the people and entities that the pattern reached. The family did what only family can do: carry the gap and insist that it not be folded into paperwork. Outcomes took the shape the place allowed. There were detentions and releases with conditions. There were fines that read large in a headline and small in a ledger. There were asset holds that slowed payments to shells. There was a travel watch that sent a driver home and kept him there long enough to answer questions under oath. There was no public charge against the man whose title had opened every door. Status is a door that shuts from the inside. The consulate arranged repatriation of property and copies of the case file that could travel. Marta's mother received a box with her daughter's documents, garments, and a folded keycard sleeve with a number written in her daughter's hand. She received certified pages that translated lab findings into plain words. She received a letter from the prosecutor that named what had been proven and what had not. The letter did not promise more. It promised to keep the file open under the article that allows a case to breathe. The system learned in small ways. The hotel changed audit rules, so a keycard entry without a matching camera frame raised an immediate alert. The health regulator tightened clinic badge issuance and manifest edit controls so that overwritten numbers triggered reviews in the moment, not days later. The fleet vendor added a consent field for medical detours that had to be recorded as a voice note by the passenger, not an assistant. The boutique agency vanished from public search. Its phone numbers stopped ringing. Its domain stopped resolving. the holding group registered a new name that meant nothing yet. The legacy settled in two places at once. In Warsaw, a dental clinic pinned a small note near a workstation about keeping clean records and saving scans to cloud. In Dubai, a sanitation inspector began to photograph every oddity as if it all mattered, because sometimes it does. Quiet habits turn into anchors when nothing else will hold. Near the marina, the hotel lobby returned to its citrus and stone. Guests rolled bags across polished floors. A front desk printer spit out fresh sleeves for keycards. The camera grid watched the elevators rise and fall. The grid did not know what it had missed before the rules changed. Outside, water held small triangles of light. The city kept its model-like calm. A ledger sat a little cleaner. A mask sat a little thinner. A mother kept a sleeve with a